Well, should I call Nihal Sarin the human AlphaZero? The reason for that is because when AlphaZero played against Stockfish and its games were analyzed, many people just couldn't understand the moves made by AlphaZero. And today, when Nihal beat Eltaj Safarli in the second round of the World Cup, the first game between them, I really did not understand where was it that black went wrong. They played the main line Roy Lopez against each other, and it was theoretical. Nihal was making his moves, his opponent was making the standard moves, and suddenly it was lost, completely lost for black. So let's have a look at the game and understand how Nihal, playing with the white pieces, following theory for quite some time, was able to simply outwit his experienced opponent. A few words about Eltaj Safarli. He is rated 2593 right now, but his highest elo was 2694. He is the second of Shakhriyar Mamedyaro. He's helped him many times, so very knowledgeable guy and a very strong player. Nihal opened the game with 1 e4 like he did against George Corey as well, and soon we had the Roy Lopez on the board. a6, bishop a4, knight f6, castles, and this is all very well known theory. Castles, h3, knight b8 and d4. And the idea of knight b8 is that you want to put your knight on d7 to keep the e5 pawn intact, protected, and then you have the c pawn ready to move. So that's the main idea of the Breyer. It's called the Breyer system. Knight d7, knight d2, bishop b7, and I like this nice little movements in this opening. Now black has two attacks on e4, so white defends it one more time so that his knight is now free to move. Rook e8 is played, and then you move the knight, and now black moves his bishop because now he's threatening e into d4, and then there are three attacks on e4, and white is just in time to play knight g3 and reinforce that pawn. So it's a nice little dance by all the pieces. And now g6 is played so that the knight doesn't get the f5 square. And here Nihal started to take a lot of time. Firstly, for this move, he thought for 8 minutes. This is still quite mainline theory. There are thousands of games that have been played here, but he just likes to take his time. Now a4, and the opponent played bishop g7. Now is this already a mistake? You can't say so, although clearly the most popular move in this position is c5. I just want to give you a small idea. For example, if your opponent plays a move like just some random move here, let's say b3, okay, or even I'm just trying to make a simple move in the position to show you a point. Let's say rook b1, okay, it's not a great move, but here c5 is no longer very good because after d5, c4, now you want to jump with your knight to c5, but white has a very powerful move b4. And the point is that after takes, you can put your pawn on b4 and sort of dominate the knight on c5. You can even wait for the knight to come to c5 and then play b4. So that's the basic idea. Now when your opponent already plays pawn to a4, then c5 is much more logical, because let's say after d5, c4, now b4, you can just take en passant, and the pawn is already on a4, so you cannot recapture back. And that's why the knight gets a very nice square on c5, and this is a very well known position. In fact, a recent game is MVL with the white pieces against Amin Bassem, who's quite a expert with the Breyer. It went bishop g5, knight c5, and although MVL won in the end, I think this line looks much more solid. So c5 definitely worth investigating, but Eltaj played bishop g7 and he said, well, I'm just putting my bishop on a good square. Nihal now thought for 6 minutes and played bishop d3, attacking the pawn. Opponent played c6. Now again, this is a very standard move. If you have been playing the Breyer or have studied it before, you know that this is common to play c6 to defend this in this manner, and then later on try for something like d5 break. But here there's an important move d5, which again should be worthy of consideration. Seeing how this game progresses, it looks really crazy, but white has no good way to sort of improve his position in the center. You know, he cannot break the tension. For example, if he takes ed, then black will take ed, and it looks like completely fine. Something like rook e8, queen e8, cd, bishop a4, and then you take on d5. And if instead of ed, if white plays de, then you have de, e into f6 and knight f6, and once again black regains his piece with a completely equal position. So after d5, the best move for white is bishop g5, and then crazy things start to happen, like b4 is the main move in the position, and all of these things. So that's the reason why I feel that this is what black should have done in the position, and black would have got a good chances. But here the move that was played was c6, and Nihal went bishop to g5, which is a very active move. h6 was played and bishop e3. So this once again a very common idea. You go up, you force h6, you come back, and then you'll get a tempo with queen d2 attacking the pawn on h6. This is quite common. Queen c7, making way for the rook to come to d8. Queen d2 attacking h6. Now you defend it, king h7, and now starts Nihal's brilliant play. Okay, first of all, he plays the move b4, and mind you, he took only 56 seconds for this move. So I have a feeling that somehow once again Nihal was prepared perhaps in the game, or maybe he had some ideas in this structure, because the way he continues is really amazing. Knight b6. Okay, now no longer d5 works so well, because you can take, and somehow this is just bad because this bishop on b7 is just very poor. You know, white has all the pieces in the game and black is just a piece down, it seems. So knight b6 was played by Eltaj, and he felt that, you know, I should force a5 and then jump back, or maybe even jump to c4. But this is where Nihal played a very strong move, d into e5. And usually you don't take on e5 because you are in a way, in effect, exchanging your d4 pawn for the d6 pawn. So after de, black now has equal footage, sort of foothold on the center, e5 against e4. But Nihal had a very clear plan in mind. He went a5, and that's the reason why he took, because let's say he plays a5 here, then black has the possibility to insert first e into d4, c into d4, and then knight to c4. Takes, and then later he can defend maybe with d5. Not so great, but just gives another option. So that's why he took a5. Knight had to go back, and now another powerful move. What should white play? Well done if you found the move c4, because now you really don't want to take with bc4. Like for example, something like this is just horrible, you know, these pawns. Also f7 is attacked. But if you don't play you don't take, then white has always this chance of playing c5 and closing everything. And look at this bishop here, it's not feeling so great. Okay, rook a d8, and black says, well, if you're going to close this with c5, I will activate my bishop from c8 perhaps. But Nihal has nothing of that sort. You know, he plays queen to a2, an amazing move. The queen is now looking at the f7 square, and it's so well placed here. Threat is cb5. So the king comes back to g8. Logical, you want to defend f7. And now once again, white to move, what would you play here? And I think this move will make its way to many positional manuals because it's a beautiful move. I'm sure all those who appreciate little moves would appreciate what Nihal does here. Congratulations if you found bishop to c2. The bishop on d3 was not doing its task. I mean, it had nothing much to do, and so it relocates itself to b3 where it's going to look at the f7 point. Simply amazing. Queen d6, bishop b3, and now cb5 is a threat once again. So queen went to e7, bringing the last piece into the game. Well, maybe knight h4 was slightly stronger here, but well, rook a d1 is just perfect. Rook c8, and now knight to h4, threatening cb, and then taking on g6 because this pawn would be pinned. Okay, king f8. The king is not finding a good square. It went to h7 first, then g8, now f8, c5. Bad life for the bishop. Okay, knight b8. Rook jumps into d6, and now when he played rook e d8, Nihal knew that the game is almost over. He has to now finish it off well, and he does it beautifully. Knight g to f5, sacrificing a piece, but already black is almost 2 pieces down, so you have nothing to worry. Queen c7, and now knight to g7 takes. Find the finishing shot. Well done if you found bishop into h6. The point is, if you take, which he did in the game, rook f6 comes. If you don't take and play king g6, then queen d2, threatening a mate here. King took, rook f6, and now this is another point where I like Nihal's accuracy. He plays rook to f5 check. He could have simply taken on f7, but no, he doesn't want the queen, he wants the king. Rook f5 and queen to e2 is the final move, and Eltaj Safarli resigned. The threat is queen g4 and rook h5 mate. So if you play something like rook g8, then I go queen h5 check, king g7, and I think aesthetically, the many moves that win rook into f7 just wins the game, but aesthetically rook e3 looks great as you now have all the pieces in the attack. So this is how Nihal beat a nearly 2600 rated opponent with some amazing play. I think the mistake is not really one point, you can't pinpoint it, but I think black has to think. For example, here already, as we discussed, the move c5 should be considered. After bishop g7, bishop d3, the move d5 should be considered. I think after he played c6, this was already pretty bad because b4, and then Nihal was in his element. So now he has 3 wins out of 3 games at the World Cup. He's raced to 2626 on the live ELO ratings. If he draws tomorrow with Safarli, he's through to the 3rd round, where perhaps I've not really checked it very deeply, but I think he will play Mamedyarov. But let's not get too much ahead of ourselves for now. Congratulations, Nihal. By the way, Magnus Carlsen was commentating live on Chess24, and he said this was a perfect game by Nihal Sarin. Well, we couldn't have been more honored than that.